So many people who get successful kind of stay stuck in the time period where their fame happened to them, where they try to repeat their success. And he just loved storytelling, any kind of storytelling. I got to do Q&As with him and stuff like that, and people would ask him if he liked Godard films or something, and he really didn't. He didn't like any time you noticed the director. You know, pretty much that was his thing. It annoyed him when the director made it about him. And he felt it was in the way of the characters, and that his interest in cinema was in the characters. In that he would talk about, like Scorsese, for example, in Goodfellas, is the perfect use. I mean, he would, when Scorsese was flashy or dynamic, it was in service of the emotional life of the movie. The movie needed to be dynamic at that moment. He turned Raging Bull's boxing into poetry because you needed to understand what it meant to the man and to feel it. But it was never, you were never aware of him directing. Sidney loves that, you know. And so I think what he really liked was making an unsentimental, tough movie at the end of his life. And he really, he loved this Greek element of this movie. I mean, he kept saying that the stakes are preposterously high. Try playing a scene. Okay, you just shot your mom. You didn't mean to, and you're worried your dad's gonna find out. I mean, the stakes are so ridiculous, you know? But he just fought and loved it. He loved this, he found it a very old-fashioned movie in that way. And so, I don't know, he's a very humble guy. And so he wouldn't think it would be important. I wanted him to get more attention for this movie when it happened. You know, he'd won 10 years before the Lifetime Achievement Oscar, but he never actually won an Oscar for directing a movie, you know, and I always felt like, you know, if this had been directed by some 28-year-old guy out of film school, he'd be blown away. But at that time, they were kind of taking Sidney a little for granted. Oh, look at the old guy doing fine, doing what he does, making great movies, who cares? Well, he's talking about this, the New York Public Library has a fiction award that I started with some other people to try to help young writers. They give grants, and most importantly, I think, they give some acclaim to writers at the beginning of their career. And the motivation for doing that is entirely how luxurious people have been with me, supporting me throughout my life, and I know that it's been a much harder road to toe for a lot of young people, and I really liked. It's very difficult to make a living as a fiction writer in this climate. Everybody kind of gets sucked into writing for magazines or TV or just things that are slightly aspire for less, slightly more disposable, and anything that could give young writers a pat on the back and an encouragement, and give readers, a lot of readers don't know what to read, and if you want to read a young person's writing, you don't know where to start, and you don't want to waste, we all have very little time to wait, you know, you don't want to read a bad book, it's terrible. So, the idea of the award. What's part two of your question?
How was like being Rihanna's pimp?
How was it being Rihanna's pimp? Yeah. For those who don't know, I played Rihanna's pimp in this Luc Besson film, and here's the funny thing is I got a call from Luc Besson. It was like a little bit before Christmas, and my agent said, "Hey, Luc Besson wants to call you. Is that okay? Can I give him your number?" I'm like, "Of course." So my phone rings and it's Luc Besson, and he says, "Hey, I wrote a part for Dennis Hopper, and Dennis Hopper died. So can you come to Paris and play Dennis Hopper?" I'm like, "Sure. What do I have to do?" He goes, "You're a pimp. You're going to be Rihanna's pimp." And to be honest, I just wish my part was bigger because it was really fun to play Dennis Hopper as Rihanna's pimp.